So I'm going to use this comment to like speak on this post. I was just reading through the comments and, a lot of people were, thrown off when Kirk was talking about as far as in dating and deciding whether you want to be active or, set these boundaries. And when he said active, the first thing that we're going to think about is being sexually active. But, it is, you can be actively dating, but that doesn't necessarily meaning like you are being sexual. You know what I'm saying? Because when you think about dating, a lot of people, have different definitions of dating. I used to think like when I thought about dating, it was like, oh, this is somebody I'm talking to. We're in a relationship. But some people see dating as, you're putting yourself out here on the dating scene, getting to know people, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're actually, being sexual with people. But I can see how it was, some confusion there because he did not follow it up with some type of clarity. But once I watched the full clip, I understood what he meant by that. But yes, everybody is right. It's not a sin not to be married, but fornication and yet, it's saying, in other words, you're not married, that is a sin. But also, I do want to talk about this. The reason why I stitched that video, because this is something I was talking about before when I did my video, Wisdom for Women. The video that you saw, after Kirk was speaking, when I was talking, this was an older video that I was telling people that sometimes you may not be called for marriage. And so this is, make me want to open up this dialogue to talk about Jeremiah. So this is about Jeremiah, where God had commanded Jeremiah not to be married, because this is the society or the land that he was, occupying in that time was people that were corrupt. He said that, the sons and daughters would die of diseases. So this is someone that also led the single life. And I don't think that, we get a lot of teachings on that, because a lot of times, just me speaking as a woman, a lot of times, I heard more stories about Ruth. Ruth, you are in that season of Ruth where, your Boaz is coming. So it was always put in my mind that, I'm going to, get a husband. Guaranteed, I'm saved, I'm living right by God. So, there's a man going to come along, but in actual reality, that may not be in the book of life for you, just like the prophet Jeremiah. And there are many of us that, that would live that life of being single. But you get what I'm saying? So it's like, we don't ever really spend time talking about that. We just always hear about Ruth and getting married and having a Boaz. So you have all these women that are, expecting to meet this man of God because she's been living faithful by, by God and by his word. And, I would like to add that, also when it comes down to being fruitful and multiplying, it's not always about having children. You can be fruitful and multiplying by, doing things that uplift the kingdom of God, just like doing work that help the people that are less fortunate, like whatever your business is, whatever your ministry is, you can be fruitful in that way too. Not just about being, having kids and being sexual. We're not, especially when we're living for God, we're not going to spend so much time just being sexual all the time. We're going to multiply and be fruitful in many different ways. And this brings me into 1 Corinthians chapter 7. See, I learned this when I, in my beginning stages, when I got saved, that about marriage. See, this right here is, a wisdom from Paul. Well, Paul was talking about that what he's speaking on and teaching us is that he said this is wisdom that was imparted in him from God. Now, however, this is talking about the ways to go about it. Like when you get married, the Bible instructs you on how to, go about this marriage so that it will be kingdom and follow in God's words. But however, Paul talks about it's better to be single like he is so that you can do the work of the Lord. See, like I said, this is not something that a lot of us hear about. Every time we get saved, the next thing we talk about is marriage. But also, I will share something with you that's personal. When I met my spiritual father, he was a prophet. One of the first times he met me, he asked me, he was like, "Are you trying to have a baby?" And I was like, no, not necessarily. In that time, I was seeing so many people, from school around me. They was all having babies. But here's the thing. None of them were married. They was getting pregnant, having boyfriends or girlfriends, and they was moving in together in their apartment. This is what I'm seeing everybody doing around me. They all, having babies. Girls having babies. So now you seeing what society was taking place, in a lot of people's life around you. You think that this is something you're supposed to be doing. So now you feel like the outcast, right? You see what I'm saying? So you end up falling in the ways of the world, because the truth is, when we come into the earth, we are introduced to the world ways more than we are introduced to the way of God. Come on now, you better catch them diamonds. That's how it is. So my spiritual father, I had told him about it, what it was. So he told me, he said, God doesn't want you to be pregnant because it will be a burden, because he has plans for you to travel the nations and also help orphan children. See, that makes a lot of sense, because like I told you, not all of us will be in alignment with marriage. Some of us will be single to do the work of the Lord, because he told me it would be a burden. See, I didn't know who I was back then, but now where I am at 33 years old, okay, it makes a lot of sense why, you know what I'm saying, those things didn't take place in my life. You see what I'm saying? Because some of us will be, without children, without marriage, because there are other things that God wants us to commit to. There's a lot of people out here that may need that help, that may need that nurturing. So just like what Paul was talking about in this letter, and giving us advice that when you are married, it's going to take away the work that you're doing for God, because now you have a worldly responsibilities to take care of. So it's going to take you away from it. The same thing with being a wife or being a husband. It's going to take away that time. You see what I mean? So it also says that to get married if you can't help it, meaning fornication. This is for those that, so that you don't commit that fornication sin against God in your body. And so with just using wisdom, don't go out here and get married just so that you can, be sexual. Because here's the thing, once you scratch that itch, then you're still left with this relationship now that you done came up on the covenant. So it ain't no just walking away now that you done got your the fire done been put out. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of people would do that too. They don't want to sin or fornicate, so they go and get married so they can have that access to be sexual. But if that's all you're building it on, the foundation, then you're going to be ready to run out of there. And so now you're jeopardizing, breaking, even more the rules, you know what I'm saying? The spiritual laws. Now you're getting ready to break some more because you was only in it for your own satisfaction, your pleasure. You see what I'm saying? So it is best to just, to deny your flesh until you meet somebody that you do want to do life with, and that would be that complements your life in every aspect. You see what I'm saying? So this is a real good teaching that we all need, because like I say, when a lot of times the perception about getting saved is the next step, we think marriage, but the next step is becoming one with God. Because here's why: you got to know God's voice. So therefore, when you're out here in the world, you can maneuver better. So let's just say, if you were to get married, how will you know who's your person if you don't have when you don't know how to hear from God, when you don't know his voice? God said, my children know my voice. But it takes time to actually learn God's voice from your voice and from the enemy's voice. So that's why I say it's more important to become one with God before you try to become one with a person. You better catch them diamonds now. Come on now. I do want to close this message is speaking to all the women. It is very important that you do become one with God, because God is the one that will reveal your purpose, because society has already said your only purpose is just to have children and to just, pretty much be, just home, homebody, have children, take care of the home. But in actual, reality, that you may be called to a bigger, assignment than just that. You know what I mean? And that's not something that we're always told. And so this is why it's better to, You seek God to know who you are, because it's easy for people to try to stick labels on you and tell you what you should be doing as a woman. But God assigns you your purpose. So stay connected to God so you will know who you really are, because a lot of times we go out here and go out the ways of society, and we miss out on who we actually really are.